The red dust of Kepler 442b swirled around Captain Li Wujin's boots as he stepped out of the mining transport. The twin suns cast long shadows across the rocky terrain, painting everything in shades of orange and crimson. This was their third month on this remote planet, and the mining operation was going well. The rare metals they found here would help build ships back on Earth. "Captain, you need to see this," called Engineer Kim Taeho from behind a large boulder. His voice carried worry and excitement at the same time. Wujin walked over to where Taeho stood. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. Scattered across the ground were pieces of alien ships. The metal was unlike anything humans had ever seen. It looked organic, almost like it had grown instead of being built. Some pieces were still smoking from whatever battle had happened here. "How long ago do you think this happened?" Wujin asked, kneeling down to examine a twisted piece of hull. "Maybe a few hours," Taeho replied. "The metal is still warm. Whatever did this was powerful." Dr. Park Soman joined them, carrying her scanning equipment. She was the team's expert on alien lifeforms, though they had never found any living creatures on this planet before. Her scanner beeped rapidly as she moved it over the wreckage. "These readings are incredible," she said, her eyes wide with amazement. "This technology is far beyond anything we've seen from other alien races. The power signatures suggest these ships could travel faster than light without using the jump gates." Wujin felt a chill run down his spine. If there were aliens this advanced, and they were fighting each other, what did that mean for humanity? Earth was still a young member of the galactic community. They had only made contact with 3 other intelligent species, and none of them were particularly friendly. Captain Soman called out from deeper in the wreckage field. "I'm getting life signs over here." All 3 humans hurried toward her voice. They found her standing next to what looked like an escape pod that had crashed into the rocky ground. The pod was cracked open, and strange blue fluid leaked from its edges. "The life sign is very weak," Soman said, checking her scanner. "Whatever is in there is dying." Wujin peered into the damaged pod. Inside was a creature unlike anything he had ever imagined. It was about the size of a large dog, covered in dark scales that seemed to shift color in the light. It had 4 powerful legs and a long tail with spikes along its length. Its head was elongated with a mouth full of sharp teeth. Even unconscious and injured, it looked dangerous. "Is it some kind of predator?" Taeho asked, taking a step back. So-Min ran her scanner over the creature. The results made her gasp. "According to my readings, this is a young Vorthok." The name sent ice through Wujin's veins. Every human in space knew about the Vorthok. They were the apex predators of the galaxy. Adult Vorthok could tear through starship hulls with their bare claws. They had telepathic abilities that could drive other species insane. No one had ever seen a young Vorthok before because they lived in the deepest parts of space, far from other civilizations. "A Vorthok cub," Taeho whispered. "They left their own young to die." Soman continued scanning. "It has multiple broken bones, internal bleeding, and severe dehydration. Without medical treatment, it will die within hours." The 3 humans stood in silence, looking down at the dying creature. Wujin's mind raced through the possibilities. If they left it here, it would die, and that would be the end of it. But if they tried to save it, they would be taking an enormous risk. Adult Vorthoks were known to hunt down anyone who harmed their young, but this one had been abandoned. Did that change things? "We should leave it," Taeho said quietly. "This is not our problem. Besides, when it grows up, it might try to kill us." "But it's just a baby," Soman argued. "Look at it, it's helpless." Wujin knelt down beside the pod. The creature's breathing was shallow and rapid. One of its eyes opened slightly, revealing a golden iris that seemed to glow in the dim light. For a moment, the cub looked directly at him. There was intelligence in that gaze, and something else. Pain, fear, the same emotions any young creature would feel when hurt and alone. "Captain, what are your orders?" Taeho asked. Jin had been trained to make difficult decisions. As a mining captain, he was responsible for the safety of his crew, above all else. The logical choice was clear. They should leave the creature and report the wreckage to Earth Command. Let someone else deal with the implications of finding technology and abandoned cub. But as he looked at the dying creature, Wujin felt something stir in his chest. It was the same feeling he got when he saw any helpless animal in pain. The feeling that made humans different from many other species in the galaxy. Other races talked about survival of the fittest and natural selection. Humans talked about compassion and protecting the weak. "We take it back to the base," Wujin decided. "Captain, are you sure?" Taeho asked. "This could be the most dangerous decision we've ever made." "Maybe," Wujin replied, carefully lifting the pod. The creature inside weighed more than he expected, its body dense with muscle even at this young age. "But I won't be able to sleep tonight if we leave it here to die." Soman smiled. "I'll prepare the medical bay. We'll need to convert it for alien physiology." As they carried the pod back to their base, Wujin wondered what they were getting themselves into. The creature in his arms could grow up to be the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. Its own kind had left it for dead, following their harsh laws of survival. Now 3 humans were going to try to save it. The base appeared ahead of them, a cluster of dome-shaped buildings connected by covered walkways. It was their home away from home, but soon it would house something that could change everything they knew about their place in the universe. What should we call it? Soman asked as they entered the medical bay. Woojin looked down at the creature. Its golden eyes were closed now, but he could still remember the intelligence he had seen there. Kale, he said. We'll call him Kale. Behind them, the alien wreckage continued to smolder under the twin suns, evidence of a battle between apex predator. But in the human base, a different kind of battle was about to begin. A battle between instinct and compassion, between survival and mercy. It was a battle that would define not just the fate of one abandoned cub, but the future relationship between 2 species that should have been mortal enemies. The medical bay hummed with activity as Dr. Park Soman worked frantically to save the dying Vorthok cub. She had converted 3 examination tables into a makeshift alien care unit, tubes and wires connected to strange machines she had built. From mining equipment and medical supplies, the air smelled of antiseptic and ozone from the electrical equipment. His heart rate is dropping again. Soman called out to Captain Lee Woojin, who stood watching from the doorway. I need more power to the heating unit. His body temperature has to stay exactly 42 degrees, or his organs will shut down. Woojin nodded and adjusted the power settings. They had been working for 6 hours straight since bringing Kale back to the base. The creature lay motionless on the table, his dark scales pale and dull. Breathing tubes helped his damaged lungs, and for lines fed nutrients into his bloodstream. Engineer Kim Tae-ho entered the medical bay carrying a steaming cup of coffee. He had been working in the communications room, trying to research everything he could find about Vorthok biology. His face showed exhaustion and worry. I sent a message to Earth's command, Tae-ho said quietly. It will take 3 weeks to reach them, and another 3 weeks to get a reply. We're on our own. Until then, what did you tell them? Woojin asked. Just that we found alien wreckage and are investigating. I didn't mention the cub. Tae-ho looked at the creature on the table. I still think we should have left it to die. Captain, every piece of information I can find says the same thing. Adult Vorthoks are unstoppable killing machines. They hunt in packs and show no mercy to other species. Soman looked up from her work. But this isn't an adult. It's a baby. Look at him, Tae-ho. He's helpless. Now he's helpless. Tae-ho replied. What about when he grows up? What about when he's 3 meters tall, with claws that can cut through steel? What about when he can read our minds and use our own thoughts against us? Woojin understood Tae-ho's concerns. They were logical and based on facts. But every time he looked at Kale, he saw something different. He saw a young creature that had been abandoned by his own kind, left to die because he was injured and couldn't keep up with the pack. Doctor, how long before we know if he'll survive? Woojin asked, so Min checked her readings. The next 12 hours are critical. His immune system is trying to fight off infections from his injuries. I've given him antibiotics, but I'm not sure if human medicine will work on Vorthok biology. She paused and wiped sweat from her forehead. Captain, I have to ask. Why are we doing this? Tae-ho is right about the risks. If other Vorthex find out we have one of their young, they might see it as kidnapping. They could attack Earth or our colonies. Woojin was quiet for a long moment. He watched Kale's chest rise and fall with each labored breath. The question wasn't just about this one creature. It was about who humans were as a species, what they stood for in a galaxy full of different races, with different values. When I was 7 years old, Woojin began, I found an injured bird in my backyard. Its wing was broken, and it couldn't fly. My father told me to leave it alone. He said nature would take its course, and the bird would either get better or die. That was the natural way. He walked closer to the examination table. But I couldn't leave it. Every day after school, I fed it and took care of its wing. It took 2 months, but eventually it healed and flew away. What does that have to do with this? Tae-ho asked. My father was right about nature taking its course. But humans aren't just part of nature anymore. We choose to help those who can't help themselves. That's what makes us different from other species. That's what makes us human. Soman smiled despite her exhaustion. The bird you saved, did it ever come back? Every spring for 5 years, Woojin replied. It built its nest in the tree outside my bedroom window. It brought its mate and raised families there. That one act of kindness created a connection that lasted years. Tae-ho shook his head. But this isn't a bird, Captain. This is a They don't form emotional connections with other species. They see us as prey or competition, nothing more. Maybe, Woojin said, or maybe no one has ever tried to show them kindness before. Maybe the reason they're so aggressive is because the galaxy treats them like monsters. An alarm began beeping. On one of Soman's machines, she rushed to check the readings. His brain activity is increasing. I think he might be waking up. All 3 humans gathered around the table. Kale's golden eyes opened slowly, unfocused and confused. He tried to move, but was too weak to lift his head. A low sound came from his throat, something between a whimper and a growl. Easy, Soman whispered, adjusting the pain medication. you're safe now. Kale's eyes found her face. For a moment, predator and prey looked at each other. Somin felt her heart racing. Even as a cub, there was something terrifying about those golden eyes. They held intelligence and wildness that made every instinct tell her to run, but she didn't run. Instead, she reached out slowly and gently touched Kale's forehead. His scales were warm and surprisingly soft. The cub's eyes widened in surprise. No other species had ever touched a Vorthok gently before. He's beautiful, Somin whispered. Teho stepped back. Beautiful and deadly. Doctor, you're touching the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. No, Somin replied, still stroking Kale's forehead. I'm touching a scared, hurt baby who needs help. Kale's breathing became steadier. The pain medication was working, and his vital signs improved. He watched Somin with curious eyes, as if trying to understand why these strange creatures were helping him instead of running away or attacking. What do we do now? Teho asked. Wujin looked at his crew. Somin was completely focused on caring for Kale, her scientific curiosity and natural compassion taking over. Teho was scared but still there, still part of the team. Despite his doubts, they were 3 humans, alone on a distant planet, caring for a creature that could grow up to be their greatest enemy. Now we see what happens when someone shows kindness to a Vorthok, Wujin said. We see if compassion is stronger than instinct. Over the next few hours, they took turns watching over Kale. Somin monitored his medical condition while Teho researched Vorthok development patterns. Wujin coordinated their regular mining operations, making sure their real mission on the planet continued normally. But everything had changed. They were no longer just miners extracting resources from a distant world. They had become caretakers of something unprecedented in galactic history. A Vorthok cub, raised by humans. A creature that might bridge the gap between 2 species that should have been enemies. As the twin suns set on Kepler 4 for to be, Kale fell into a deeper, more peaceful sleep. His body was beginning to heal, and his golden eyes no longer held pain. But the real test was yet to come. When he was stronger, when he could understand what had happened to him, how would he react to the kindness of strangers? How would he choose between the brutal laws of his own species and the gentle mercy of his human rescuers? 2 weeks had passed since the humans found Kale. The Vorthok cub was now strong enough to sit up on his own, though he still needed help with basic things like eating and moving around. Dr. Park. Somin had learned more about Vorthok biology in 14 days than the entire galaxy had discovered in centuries. His bone density is incredible, Somin explained to Captain Li Wuzhen as they watched Kale from across the medical bay. Even as a cub, his skeleton is 3 times stronger than a human adult, and his muscle fibers are unlike anything I've seen. He's going to be incredibly powerful when he grows up. Kale sat on a modified examination table, looking around the room with curious golden eyes. He had grown noticeably in just 2 weeks. His scales had regained their natural dark color and seemed to shimmer with health. His movements were becoming more coordinated, and his intelligence was obvious in the way he studied everything around him. Has he tried to communicate yet? Wujin asked. Not with words, but he's definitely trying to understand us. Watch this. Somin walked over to Kale and pointed to herself. Somin, she said clearly. Then she pointed to Wujin. Wujin finally, she pointed to the cub. Kale's head tilted to one side, processing the information. Then he made a sound that was almost like trying to copy human speech. It came out as a low rumble, but the attempt was clear. Incredible, Wujin said. He's trying to learn our language. Engineer Kim Teho entered the medical bay carrying a tray of food. Over the past 2 weeks, he had become Kale's primary caretaker. Despite his initial reluctance to help the cub, they had discovered that Kale could eat processed protein bars and drink water, though he preferred his food warm. Lunchtime, Teho announced, setting the tray down near Kale. The cub's eyes lit up when he saw Teho. Despite being a predator, Kale had learned to associate the engineer with food and care. He made a pleased rumbling sound and reached for the protein bar. Wait, Teho said, holding up his hand. This had become their routine. What do you say first? Kale looked confused for a moment, then made the sound he had been practicing. It was rough and hard to understand, but it was clearly an attempt to say thank you. Good, Teho said, handing over the food. Humans always say thank you when someone helps them. Wujin watched this interaction with amazement. Teho had been the most opposed to saving Kale, but now he was teaching the cub human manners. It was impossible not to be affected by Kale's obvious intelligence and his eagerness to learn. Teho Somin said, "You've done more to help him than anyone. Why did you change your mind about Kale?" Teho was quiet for a moment, watching Kale eat. 3 days ago, I was working on the communication array outside the base. A dust storm came up suddenly, and I got lost. The visibility was 0, and I couldn't find my way back. He paused, remembering I was starting to panic when I heard this sound. It was Kale, calling out from inside the base. Somehow, he knew I was in trouble. He kept making noise until I could follow the sound home. He was trying to help you, Somin said. A creature that's supposed to be a mindless predator helped save my life. Teho replied, that changed everything for me. Kale finished eating and made a contented sound. Then he did something that surprised all three humans. He reached out and gently touched Teho's hand with one clawed finger. It was a gesture of affection, something no one expected from a Vorthok. He's forming emotional bonds, Soman observed. This goes against everything we know about his species. Maybe we don't know as much as we thought, Wujin said. Maybe the Vorthoks we've encountered before were shaped by their harsh culture, not their nature. Over the following days, Kale's language skills improved rapidly. He learned to say simple words like food, water, help, and the names of his three caretakers. More importantly, he began to understand concepts like please and thank you and sorry. The breakthrough came when Kale accidentally knocked over a container of medical supplies. Instead of ignoring the mess like a wild animal might, he immediately began trying to clean it up. When Teho came to help, Kale looked at him and clearly said, "Sorry, did you hear that?" Teho called to the others. He apologized. He understands that he made a mistake and feels bad about it. Soman ran more tests and discovered that Kale's brain was developing in ways that were completely different from what they expected. The parts of his mind that controlled empathy and social bonding were growing stronger, while the areas associated with aggression and territorial behavior remained dormant. It's like he's becoming a different kind of Vorthok, she explained. To Wujin, the care and kindness he's received are actually changing his neural development. What does that mean for his future? Wujin asked. I think it means we're creating something new. A Vorthok who can form emotional connections with other species, a predator who chooses cooperation over domination. One evening, as the twin suns set over the mining base, Kale surprised them all again. Teho was sitting in the common area, looking tired after a long day of work. Kale approached slowly and gently placed his head against Teho's leg, making a soft purring sound. I think he's trying to comfort you, Soman said, watching from the doorway. Teho carefully petted Kale's head. The cub scales were warm and smooth under his touch. When I was a kid, my dog used to do this when I was sad. Kale can sense emotions, can't he? Vortheks are supposed to be telepathic, Soman confirmed. But instead of using it to hunt or intimidate, Kale is using it to connect with us emotionally. As the weeks passed, Kale continued to grow and learn. He began to understand more complex ideas like fairness, sharing, and protecting others. When Soman was working late in the lab, Kale would bring her food and water. When Teho was repairing equipment, Kale would hand him tools. Somehow, knowing exactly what was needed, most remarkably, Kale began to show protective instincts toward his human family. When alarms sounded during equipment malfunctions, Kale would position himself between the humans and any potential danger. He wasn't aggressive, but he was clearly ready to defend them if necessary. He's becoming everything his species isn't supposed to be, Wujin observed one day. Gentle, caring, protective of other species. Maybe that's what his species was always meant to be, Soman replied. Maybe the harsh environment of space made them forget their capacity for kindness. But their peaceful routine was about to end. Long-range sensors had detected ships approaching the planet. The signatures were unfamiliar but powerful. Something was coming to Kepler-4 for to be, and the humans had a feeling it was related to the wreckage they had found. Kale seemed to sense the approaching danger too. His golden eyes often looked toward the sky, and he made worried sounds that his human family had never heard before. Whatever was coming, Kale recognized it. The real test of their bond was about to begin. The alarm in the mining base screamed through the morning air. Captain Li Wujin rushed to the communications center where Engineer Kim Teho was staring at the long-range sensors with a pale face. "Captain, you need to see this," Teho said, his voice shaking. 3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're not human designs. Wujin looked at the screen. The ships were massive, each one easily 3 times the size of their mining vessel. They had the same organic look as the wreckage they had found weeks ago. Dark, flowing lines that seemed to move even when standing still. Vorthok ships, Wujin whispered. Dr. Park So-min entered the communications center, followed closely by Kale. The young Vorthok had grown significantly over the past month. He was now the size of a large wolf, with powerful muscles rippling under his dark scales. His golden eyes were bright with intelligence and concern. "What's happening?" So-min asked. "The pack has come looking for their cub," Wujin replied grimly. Kale heard this and made a sound that was part whine, part growl. He had learned enough human language to understand what was being discussed. His eyes darted between his 3 human caretakers, and he moved closer to Teho, seeking comfort. "They're hailing us," Teho reported. "Should I answer?" Wujin nodded. "Put it on the main screen." The screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at a creature that made their blood run cold. The adult Vorthok was enormous, easily 3 meters tall. His scales were battle-scarred and dark as midnight. His golden eyes held no warmth, only cold calculation. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding stone. "I am pack leader, Vex Scar, of the Darkfang clan. You have something that belongs to us. Woojin stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. I am Captain Lee Woojin of the Earth Mining Consortium. We found wreckage from a battle and an injured creature. We provided medical assistance. The weak cub should have died, vexed. Scar replied without emotion. That is our way. The strong survive, the weak perish. You have interfered with natural selection. Behind Woojin, Kale made a soft sound of distress. He understood enough to know that his own kind wanted him dead, simply because he had been injured. The cub is alive and healthy, Salmon said, stepping forward. We've taken good care of him. Dr. Tejo whispered urgently, don't tell them too much, but it was too late. Vex Scar's eyes narrowed with interest. You speak of the weak one as if it lives. This is impossible. Show me. Woojin looked at his crew, then at Calais. The young Vorthok was trembling, but he stepped forward bravely. He looked up at the screen where his pack leader's image glared down at him. Hello, Vex Scar, Kale said in his rough but clear voice. The reaction from the pack leader was immediate and shocking. He stepped back, his eyes wide with disbelief. It speaks the tongue of prey animals. What have you done to our young? We taught him to communicate, Soman said proudly. He's learned our language, our customs. He's intelligent and kind and protective. Abomination, Vex Scar snarled. You have corrupted him with weakness. You have made him soft like yourselves. Kale's head drooped at these words. His own pack leader was calling him an abomination for learning to be gentle and caring. He's not weak, Tejo said angrily, surprising everyone. He saved my life. He shows compassion and intelligence. He's everything. A good person should be Vex Scar's voice was filled with disgust. He is Vorthok. He is predator. He is meant to hunt and kill, not to serve prey animals like a domesticated pet. We didn't domesticate him, Woojin said firmly. We gave him a choice. We showed him that there are other ways to be strong besides violence. Lies, Vex Scar roared. Strength comes from conquest, from domination, from proving superiority over lesser species. This is the way of the Vorthok. No, Kale said quietly, but his voice carried through the communication system. That is not strength. That is fear. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Vex Scar seemed stunned by the young Vorthok's words. Fear, the pack leader repeated. Yes, Kale continued, his confidence growing. You hurt others because you are afraid they might be stronger than you. You abandon the injured because you are afraid of showing mercy. You call kindness weakness, because you are afraid of what it might teach you. Vex Scar's image flickered with rage. You dare speak to me of fear, weak one. I have conquered 17 star systems. I have made entire species bow before the might of the Vorthok. And what did that gain you? Kale asked. Did it make you happy? Did it give you friends who care about you? Did it teach you anything new? The pack leader was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was deadly quiet. You will return our young to us immediately. We will correct the damage you have done to his mind. What do you mean by correct? Somin asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. He will be put through the trials of strength. If he survives, he may earn a place in the pack again. If he does not, he will die as he should have died when we first abandoned him. No, Tejo said firmly. We won't let you hurt him. Vex Scar laughed, a sound like breaking glass. 3 small humans think they can stand against a Vorthok hunting pack. You will give us the corrupted cub, or we will take him by force. You'll have to go through us first, Woojin said. So be it, Vex Scar replied. We will land in 1 hour. Prepare your defenses. If you have any, it will make no difference. The screen went dark. The 3 humans stood in silence, processing what had just happened. They had essentially declared war on the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Captain, Tejo said quietly, our mining lasers might slow them down, but they won't stop a Vorthok war party. I know, Woojin replied, but we can't just hand Kale over to be killed. Thank you, Kale said softly. You would die to protect me, even though I am not your kind. You are our kind, Soman said, kneeling down to hug the young Family isn't about what species you are, it's about who you choose to love and protect. Kale's eyes brightened with tears, something the humans had never seen from him before. I choose you, he said. I choose to protect my human family. Then we face this together, Woojin said. All of us. Outside, the Vorthok ships moved into attack formation. Inside the mining base, 3 humans and 1 very special Vorthok prepared for a battle that would determine not just their survival, but the future of both their species. Kale looked out the window at the approaching ships, his golden eyes filled with determination. He was no longer the weak, abandoned cub they had found in the wreckage. He was something new, something unprecedented. In galactic history, he was a Vorthok who had learned to love, and he was about to show his birth pack what real strength looked like. The ground shook as the 3 Vorthok ships landed near the mining base. Captain Lee Woojin watched through the reinforced windows as massive forms emerged from the vessels. There were 12 adult Vorthoks in total, each one larger and more terrifying than anything the humans had ever imagined. They're beautiful and horrible at the same time, Dr. Park Soman whispered, adjusting the mining laser she had converted into a weapon. Look how they move. Perfect predators. The Vorthax walked with fluid grace despite their enormous size. Their scales caught the light of the twin suns, creating patterns that seemed to shift and flow. But it was their eyes that truly frightened the humans. Golden orbs that showed intelligence and complete confidence in their superiority. Engineer Kim Tae-ho finished setting up the last of their defenses. They had positioned mining equipment to create barriers and armed themselves with laser cutters and plasma torches. It was pathetic compared to what they faced, but it was all they had. Kale, you should hide in the back room, Woojin said gently. We'll try to talk to them. No, Kale replied firmly. His voice had grown deeper over the weeks, though he was still clearly young. This is about me. I should face them. They want to kill you, Tae-ho said. We can't let that happen. Kale looked at his 3 human caretakers with eyes full of love and determination. You taught me that real strength comes from protecting those you care about. Now let me protect you. Before anyone could stop him, Kale walked to the main door of the base and opened it. The humans hurried after him, weapons ready, but the ground shook as the 3 Vorthok ships landed near the mining base. Captain Lee Woojin watched through the reinforced windows as massive forms emerged from the vessels. There were 12 adult Vorthoks in total, each one larger and more terrifying than anything the humans had ever imagined. They're beautiful and horrible at the same time, Dr. Park So-min whispered, adjusting the mining laser she had converted into a weapon. Look how they move. Perfect predators. The Vorthax walked with fluid grace despite their enormous size. Their scales caught the light of the twin suns, creating patterns that seemed to shift and flow. But it was their eyes that truly frightened the humans. Golden orbs that showed intelligence and complete confidence in their superiority. Engineer Kim Tae-ho finished setting up the last of their defenses. They had positioned mining equipment to create barriers and armed themselves with laser cutters and plasma torches. It was pathetic compared to what they faced, but it was all they had. Kale, you should hide in the back room, Woojin said gently. We'll try to talk to them. No, Kale replied firmly. His voice had grown deeper over the weeks, though he was still clearly young. This is about me. I should face them. They want to kill you, Tae-ho said. We can't let that happen. Kale looked at his 3 human caretakers with eyes full of love and determination. You taught me that real strength comes from protecting those you care about. Now let me protect you. Before anyone could stop him, Kale walked to the main door of the base and opened it. The humans hurried after him, weapons ready, but knowing they were probably useless. Pack leader Vex Scar stood at the front of the group, even more imposing in person than he had been on the screen. The other Vortex spread out behind him in a hunting formation. Their claws gleamed in the sunlight, and their eyes never stopped moving, constantly searching for threats. So the corrupted cub comes to us willingly, Vex Scar said. Good, it will make this easier. I come to speak with you, Kale replied, walking forward until he was halfway between the humans and the pack. I want to understand why you left me to die. Because you were weak, another Vorthok said. This one was smaller than Vex Scar, but still enormous by human standards. When the Starless Ones attacked our ships, you could not keep up. The strong escaped, the weak were left behind. The Starless Ones, So-min asked, machine intelligence from the void between galaxies, Vex Scar explained dismissively. They hunt all organic life. We fought them and won, but at great cost. The weak cub slowed us down. I was injured protecting the ship's power core, Kale said quietly. I stayed behind so others could escape. How was that weak? Vex Scar's eyes narrowed. Sacrifice for others is weakness. Only the self matters, only survival matters. Then you understand nothing about strength, Kale replied. The pack leader snarled, a sound that made the humans step back in fear. You dare lecture me, soft one. You who speak the tongue of prey animals, you who has learned their pathetic customs. I learned their wisdom, Kale said. I learned that helping others makes you stronger, not weaker. I learned that kindness takes more courage than cruelty. Prove it, Vex Scar challenged. Face me in ritual combat. Show me this strength you speak of. The humans gasped. Even young and healthy, Kale was no match for an adult Vorthok pack leader. Vex Scar was twice his size and had decades of fighting experience. Kale, don't, Tae-ho called out. He'll kill you. Perhaps, Kale replied, but I will not fight him. What? Vex Scar seemed genuinely confused. You refuse combat. You prove your weakness. No, Kale said, sitting down calmly. I prove my strength. Fighting you would accomplish nothing. You are bigger and more experienced. You would win, and then you would feel justified in your beliefs. Instead, I choose a different path. Cowardice, another pack member growled. Wisdom, Kale corrected. My human family taught me that the strongest response to violence is sometimes no response at all. Vex Scar circled around Kale, looking for any sign of fear or weakness. You would rather die than fight. This makes no sense. I would rather live in peace than kill in anger, Kale replied. But if you truly wish to test my strength, I offer you a different challenge. What challenge could a soft cub offer a pack leader? Kale stood up and looked directly into Vex-Scar's eyes. I challenge your understanding of what makes someone strong. You say the humans are weak because they saved me instead of leaving me to die. But look what their weakness created. I see a corrupted youngling who has forgotten his nature. Look closer, Kale said. I am stronger now than when you left me. Not just in body, but in mind and spirit. The human's kindness did not make me weak. It made me complete. To demonstrate, Kale walked over to a large boulder that had fallen from the cliff face above the base. The rock was easily 3 times his size. With careful precision, he grabbed it and lifted it over his head. The Vortex murmured in surprise. Physical strength, Kale said, setting the boulder down gently. But that is only the beginning. He turned to Teho. Do you remember when the sandstorm came, when you were lost outside? Of course, Teho replied. I felt your fear from inside the base. Through our bond, I knew exactly where you were and guided you home. The humans taught me to use my telepathic abilities, not to hunt, but to help. The pack stirred uneasily. Using psychic powers to help other species was unheard of among Vortex more. Kale continued, watch this. He approached the mining equipment the humans had set up as weapons. With delicate movements, he began dismantling the laser array. The humans started to protest. But Kale continued speaking. The humans could have used these weapons to try to hurt you. But I convinced them not to. Not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to choose peace over violence. You disarmed your own defenders. Vex-Scar asked incredulous. I protected both my families. Kale replied, if the humans had fired on you, many would have died. Both human and Vorthok. By choosing understanding over conflict, everyone lives. The pack leader was silent for a long moment. Around him, the other Vorthoks exchanged confused glances. This was not the behavior they expected from their abandoned cub. You speak of families, Vex-Scar said slowly, but you can only have one pack. No, Kale said firmly, that is old thinking. I have a birth pack that left me to die, and I have a chosen pack that saved my life. One rejected me for being weak, the other made me strong, which is truly my family. The humans are not your species. Another Vorthok protested. Family is not about species, Kale replied, echoing Soman's earlier words. It is about love and loyalty and sacrifice. My human family risked their lives to save mine. They taught me wisdom and kindness. They celebrated my growth and protected me from harm. Is that not what a true pack should do? Vex-Scar looked from Kale to the 3 humans standing behind him. Wujin, Soman, and Teho stood ready to defend their young friend, even knowing it meant certain death. They would die for you, Vex-Scar observed, and I would die for them. Kale replied, that is what love means. That is what real strength looks like. The pack leader was quiet for a very long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer, more thoughtful. In all my years of conquest, no one has ever chosen to die for me. They follow because they fear me, not because they love me. It is not too late to change, Kale said gently. The humans taught me that anyone can choose to be better than they were. Impossible, Vex-Scar said, but his voice lacked conviction. I am what I am. You are what you choose to be, Kale corrected, just as I chose to be more than an abandoned cub. The moment stretched between them, predator and cub, old ways and new possibilities. The fate of both species hung in the balance, waiting to see which would prove stronger, the brutal traditions of the past, or the hopeful promise of the future. The silence stretched across the mining base like a held breath. Pack leader Vex-Scar stared at Kale, his golden eyes reflecting thoughts that had never existed in a Vorthok mind before. Behind him, the other pack members shifted nervously, unsure of what was happening to their leader. You speak of choosing to be better, Vex-Scar said slowly, but I have spent 300 years believing that strength comes from dominance. How does one simply choose to abandon everything they know? Kale stepped closer to the massive pack leader, showing no fear. The same way I chose to trust the humans when I first woke up in their medical bay. One small decision at a time. Dr. Park Somian watched this exchange with amazement. She was witnessing something that had never happened before in galactic history. A young Vorthok was teaching an adult pack leader about compassion and choice. Tell me, Kale continued, when you conquer other species, do you feel joy? When you dominate them, does it make you happy? Vex-Scar was quiet for a long moment. I feel, satisfaction. The satisfaction of victory. But are you happy? Kale pressed. Do you have friends who care about you for who you are, not what you can do to them? Vortex do not have friends. Another pack member said. We have pack mates who serve the strong. That sounds lonely. Engineer Kim Taeho said, speaking for the first time since the confrontation began. I can't imagine living without friends who care about me. Vex-Scar turned his attention to the human engineer. You are small and weak. What could you possibly understand about strength? I understand that Kale saved my life, Taeho replied. Not because I was strong enough to deserve it, but because he cared about me. That kind of strength protected me better than any weapon could. The human speaks truth, said a younger Vorthok from the back of the pack. I have watched this exchange, and I see something I have never seen before. The small one shows no fear because he trusts the cub to protect him. Silence, Drak, Vex, Scar commanded. You forget your place. No, Drak said, stepping forward. I remember my place. But I question whether our place should be as conquerors or as something else. Other pack members began to murmur among themselves. Kale's words and actions were having an effect that went beyond just the pack leader. You see, Kale said to Vex Scar, change is possible, even among those who have followed the old ways for centuries. Captain Lee, Wujin watched the Vorthok pack with growing hope. The fear and aggression that had marked their arrival was slowly being replaced by confusion and curiosity. The pack was beginning to question everything they had believed. If we choose this new path, Vex Scar said carefully, what happens to our strength? What happens to our place in the galaxy? Your strength grows stronger, Kale replied. Watch. He turned to his 3 human caretakers. Would you trust me to protect you from danger? With our lives, Somin said without hesitation. Would you follow me into battle if necessary? Anywhere, Wujin replied. Would you sacrifice your own safety for mine? Already have, Teho answered. Kale faced the pack again. This is true strength, not fear-based obedience, but willing loyalty, not domination, but cooperation. My human pack follows me not because they have to, but because they choose to, and you would do the same for them. Vex Scar asked. I would die before I let harm come to any of them, Kale said firmly. Drak the younger Vorthok spoke again. Pack leader, in all our battles, have any of us ever said we would die for you out of love rather than duty? Vex Scar's expression grew thoughtful. No, they have not. Then perhaps the cub has found a strength we have never known, Drak continued. Another pack member, an older female named Sira, stepped forward. I have lived for 200 years following the path of conquest. I have seen worlds burn and species flee before us. But I have never seen what I see here today. Peace offered freely. Trust given without force. You would abandon our ways. Vex Scar asked her. I would explore new ways, Sira corrected. The universe is vast. Perhaps there is room for Vorthex who protect rather than destroy. Kale's eyes brightened with hope. There is room for everyone who chooses to grow beyond what they were. Vex Scar looked around at his pack members. For the first time in his long life, he was seeing doubt and questioning in their eyes. But it was not the weakness he had always feared, it was the beginning of wisdom. If I choose this path, he said to Kale, what becomes of me? I am a warrior, not a caretaker. You become something greater, Kale replied. A protector, a leader who inspires love instead of fear. A teacher, who shows others that strength and kindness can exist together. Show me, Vex Scar said suddenly. Show me what this new strength looks like. Kale nodded and walked over to the mining equipment. With careful movements, he began rebuilding the laser array that he had dismantled earlier. But instead of making it a weapon, he converted it into a construction tool. This device could hurt others, Kale explained as he worked. But the same energy can be used to build homes, create art, or help grow food. The choice of how to use our strength is always ours. When he finished, Kale used the modified laser to carve a beautiful pattern into a nearby rock face. The design showed 2 species working together, creating something neither could have made alone. Beautiful, Sira whispered. I have never seen a Vorthok create beauty before, because you never tried, Kale said gently. Destruction is easy. Creation takes real strength. Vex Scar stared at the carved pattern for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was different. Softer, but somehow stronger. I have conquered 17 star systems, he said, but I have created nothing of lasting value. Nothing that would make others remember me with joy rather than fear. It is not too late, Wujin said. Every day is a chance to choose differently. The pack leader made a decision that changed everything. He knelt down, bringing his massive form closer to Kale's level. Teach me, Vex Scar said. Teach us all how to be strong in this new way. Kale's face broke into a smile that was both Vorthok and human. I will teach you what my human family taught me. But first, you must promise to protect them as I do. We promise, Vex Scar said solemnly. The other pack members nodded in agreement. Over the following weeks, the mining base became something unprecedented in galactic history. Humans and Vorthok worked together, learned from each other, and formed bonds that transcended species. Vex Scar learned to use his telepathic abilities to sense emotions and provide comfort rather than intimidation. Sira discovered a talent for healing, using her knowledge of Vorthok biology to help other species. Drak became fascinated with human art and began creating sculptures that told stories of cooperation and hope. The younger pack members adapted quickly to the new ways. They learned human languages and customs while teaching the humans about Vorthok culture and abilities. They discovered that their natural hunting instincts could be redirected toward protecting others rather than harming them. As news of the peaceful Vorthok pack spread through the galaxy, Other species began to take notice. Some came out of curiosity, others out of fear, but all left with a new understanding of what was possible when natural enemies chose to become friends. 6 months later, Captain Woojin stood on the observation deck of the expanded base, watching as human children played with young Vorthoks in the courtyard below. Kale had grown into a magnificent adult, but he had lost none of his gentleness or wisdom. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" Somin asked, joining him at the window. "Never," Woojin replied. "When we found that injured cub, I thought we might be saving one life. I never dreamed we would be changing the fate of 2 species." Teho approached with Kale walking beside him. The bond between the engineer and the Vorthok had only grown stronger over time. "The new arrivals have been settled in," Kale reported. 3 more packs have asked to learn our ways." "What do you tell them?" Woojin asked. Kale's golden eyes sparkled with warmth. "I tell them what you told me on that first day, that real strength comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves. That love is more powerful than fear, and that everyone deserves a chance to choose who they want to become, and they believe you. Some do immediately, others take time, but eventually, they all see the truth. A pack built on love is stronger than any pack built on fear." As the twin suns set over Kepler 4 for to be, the mixed colony prepared for another peaceful night. In the distance, ships from across the galaxy continued to arrive, drawn by stories of the impossible alliance between humanity's greatest compassion and the galaxy's greatest predators. The abandoned cub that 2 species had left for dead had become the bridge between worlds. He had proven that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from conquering others, but from choosing to love them instead. And in a galaxy that had known only fear and domination between species, Kale and his 2 families had created something entirely new. A place where strength meant protection, where power meant service, and where the fiercest predators in known space had learned that the greatest conquest of all was conquering their own hearts. The new pack had been born, and the galaxy would never be the same.